Okay, so what happens when there's an increase in government spending? G denotes government spending, and whenever G goes up, that is government spending increases, we know that this must have been financed either through an increase in taxes or by borrowing. But in this particular model, we're presuming that there is only one period, so there's no concept of borrowing and lending. So borrowing is not an option, and that means that the only way that the government can finance the increase in government spending is by raising taxes. So an increase in G must have been accompanied by an increase in T, and whenever taxes increase, we know that the consumer's disposable income is going to fall, which means that there's going to be a negative income effect, which means that both consumption and leisure, which have been presumed to be normal goods in our model, are both going to decrease, right? Because these have been presumed to be normal goods. So that means that there's going to be a negative income effect. Why? Because there's an increase in taxes, which means there's a decrease in the consumer's disposable income, which means that the consumer can spend lesser in the economy. And generally, just think of it intuitively, in order to maintain the same standard of living, the consumer has to work more, right? So that means that L, that is leisure, is also going to decrease. That is, there's going to be an increase in the number of hours worked. So whenever there's an increase in the number of hours worked, that means that labor supply, NS, is going to go up. Now remember that whenever employment increases, that is labor supply increases, the marginal productivity of labor is going to fall. And since MPN is equal to W, that means that the real wage rate, W, is also going to fall. Why? Because think of it like this. The firm is not going to be willing to hire more workers unless there's a decrease in the real wage rate, right? So there's always going to be a decrease in the wage rate whenever there is an increase in labor supply. Okay, cool. So what about the effect on Y, that is output? Well, we know that as per the production function, where we have output in terms of labor, because we have presumed K, that is capital, to be constant. So whenever there's an increase in labor supply, we know that output is going to increase. So to summarize, whenever there's an increase in government spending, there's going to be a decrease in consumption and leisure. And obviously, whenever there's a decrease in leisure, that means that there's an increase in the number of hours worked, which means that there's an increase in employment. Now, an increase in employment means that there's going to be an increase in output, and there's going to be a decrease in the marginal productivity of labor, which means that there's going to be a decrease in the wage rate, that is W. Okay, cool. So that was just an intuitive explanation of why an increase in government spending is going to lead to an increase in output and employment, but a decrease in consumption, leisure, and the wage rate. In the next recording, I am going to explain step by step how you can show this graphically, because it can look very easy, deceptively easy actually, to draw this graph, but it can be quite difficult for the first time. So in the next recording, I'm going to explain how we can draw this graph in an exam situation.